had no dignity. That's what I was missing. There was no dignity. It just looked like a man desperate for attention. And whenever DeSantis was scoring points on him, he would interrupt over and over to try to talk over the points as just that's like a middle school debate tactic, which is pathetic and not effective.
They were in a special session to figure out how to sue Trump while LA is burning. And meanwhile, Gavin's going out there all the time being like, well, boy, it'd be really terrible if Trump, withheld disaster aid or heaven forbid, required that we, get our shit together. And then literally he's like, we're going to sue him for implementing the agenda he was elected on by a majority of the American people.
So it's just an MSNBC agenda. It's just a silly rich white liberal agenda.
Gavin Newsom has spent years carefully polishing his public image, almost like a living campaign display. But that polished exterior crumbles the moment Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly target him. Under their scrutiny, his entire persona, gleaming hair, rehearsed charm, and a string of catchphrases that sound like they came from a glitching TED Talk, unravels. Rather than just offering criticism, they expose him as a political figure wrapped in Armani, filled with style but lacking substance.
Gavin Newsom has decided to hire 2 young whippersnapper press people who look a lot like the Karine Jean-Pierre press pool, like the people she was using in her press office, who look like these, weird hats and strange haircuts and like the Rainbow Coalition. So he's hired 2 of those folks to write his tweets. And here's an example of where it's going. His entire tweet feed has turned into imitations of what might be a Trump tweet.
Well, California announced it was going to ban all gas-powered vehicles, and a lot of people laugh because Gavin Newsom, who runs the state into the ground, is now a third world country, is a moron. Obviously, he just says whatever on the card. And of course, California doesn't have enough electricity to have electric cars. They can't keep the lights on. So how are they going to power the future of vehicles? Well, they're not.
Because Newsom goes to such lengths to project an image of invincibility, he practically invites a roast. Striding onto every stage, interview, and carefully staged photo op, he presents himself as if California had personally sent him as a gift to the world. But once Megyn Kelly starts pointing out the obvious, his facade begins to crumble. Beneath the expensive suit and practiced Hollywood smile is a man attempting to govern, like an actor fumbling through an unlearned script. No amount of perfect lighting can disguise the truth. His political persona is more about striking poses for the cameras than delivering real results for California.
Now, he's a far left progressive, and Bill Maher just came out in favor of him. But he's the most radical Democrat in America. Honestly, his politics may be left of the squads. He would be a hard no. I don't care how good his hairline is. They're going to say no.
Tucker Carlson delivers his critique with razor-sharp irony, cutting through Newsom's polished exterior. He points out that throughout his political career, Newsom has favored style over substance. A serious national stage has always been beyond his reach, no matter how grand the performance. His speeches, full of sweeping gestures and dramatic pauses, might feel like a movie trailer, but the underlying story never changes. Complex issues under his watch, from homelessness and crime to crumbling infrastructure, are met with flashy rhetoric, yet meaningful solutions remain as elusive as his credibility.
In addition to all the other problems that California has, housing prices there are higher than any place in the country. The median home price in the state of California is now more than $800,000. That's more than double the nationwide median. In recent years, because this really is a problem, leaders in California have passed dozens of bills they claim would fix the problem. Governor Jerry Brown, the last guy, signed 15 housing bills just in 2017. Last year, Gavin Newsom signed 18 separate housing.
Newsom's obsession with appearances takes center stage in the roast. He wants to be seen as a fearless visionary and the progressive face of the future, yet he often comes across more like a social media influencer. Every detail of his image is meticulously curated for maximum visual impact. Behind the polished backdrops, dramatic effects, and constant self-promotion, chaos quietly simmers. Staged photo ops position him as a hero amid a state in crisis, but Megyn Kelly calls him out for treating California like a set piece in his personal production.
Forgive me, but it looks like a nuclear bomb hit the region. Just a huge swath of one of our most beautiful cities is gone. So all these politicians are done. They don't appear to know it, but Mayor Bass, your career's over. You're probably going to be recalled and kicked out of office. There's a change.com petition with over 100,000 signatures. She's going. I don't know if she knows that. Gavin Newsom, same. You're effed. Stop telling us about the embers in your...
Unsurprisingly, Tucker calls out the hypocrisy with sharp precision. He points out that while Newsom lectures on progressive ideals, he seems untouched by the consequences of the very policies he promotes. The infamous French Laundry dinner perfectly captures this disconnect. Newsom dined mask-free with lobbyists, even as ordinary Californians were asked to make sacrifices, endure lockdowns, and face job losses. Tucker's roast nails the essence of his leadership. The rules everyone else follows simply don't apply to him.
They work? Not at all. They did not work for the people who live in California, but they weren't intended to work for people who want to buy houses. Instead, those bills had one purpose: destroying suburban homes and replacing them with high-density housing. Real estate developers make more money when single-family homes are leveled and replaced with apartment complexes, obviously. And real estate developers happen to be major donors to the Democratic Party of California, and in particular to Gavin.
Kelly sharpens the critique by tying this contradiction to Newsom's broader elitist tendencies. Despite his constant talk about fairness and equity, his policies often place even greater pressure on working and middle-class Californians. He wields his moral authority to criticize other states and leaders, all while ignoring the fact that his own state has become a cautionary tale of vanity masquerading as leadership. Where the wealthy elite glide through unscathed, the roast then zeroes in on California itself, portraying it as a symbol of America's decline under Newsom. Tucker repeatedly lampoons this illusion, comparing the governor to a captain giving an inspirational speech as his ship slowly sinks. By highlighting the absurdity of a leader who imposes some of the nation's highest taxes while delivering some of the lowest living standards for ordinary citizens, Kelly makes the critique unmistakably clear.
Mount Rushmore, thank you, -GCN, with an image of Newsom on Mount Rushmore. Then there's a poster image of Kid Rock pointing like Uncle Sam. It reads, Kid Rock wants you to support Gavin Newsom. Captioned on X, I accept -GCN. Kid Rock, by the way, replied, saying the only support Gavin Newsom will ever get out of me is from D's nuts.
This image of Newsom perched atop Mount Rushmore comes courtesy of GCN. Kid Rock points, seemingly like Uncle Sam in a classic poster, with the caption, Kid Rock wants you to support Gavin Newsom. On X, his reply, D's nuts are the only support Gavin Newsom will ever get from me. The irony doesn't stop there. Newsom isn't just aiming for the governor's office. He wants the presidency too. To give the impression he's already campaigning, he carefully choreographs every move, trip, and national TV appearance. Kelly mocks the effort, saying he acts more like a man rehearsing his acceptance speech in front of a mirror every night than a serving governor. Tucker adds, Newsom's ambition assumes that the rest of America, like California, prefers politics that are flashy, exaggerated, and suspiciously hollow. He jokes that preparing his hair seems to take longer than preparing his policies. Kelly drives the point home, claiming Newsom is far more focused on his appearance than the people he governs, as if every passing mirror whispers presidential aspirations into his ear.
So Charlie's correct. He's hurting himself with his liberal base by doing these interviews of people like Charlie and Steve and Michael Savage. It's because the thing about Gavin Newsom is he's not very good at pushing back. So he's not going in there and doing battle with the Charlies and the Bannons of the world. He's somewhat obsequious, to be honest.
As the roast examines how Newsom confuses confidence with competence, it reaches a fiery climax. He approaches every issue as if invincible, but strip away the bravado, and all that's left is a poor record and a string of excuses. Kelly emphasizes that Newsom mistakes charm for leadership, forgetting that charisma fades while real leadership requires measurable results. Tucker dissects his hair, ego, hypocrisy, failed policies, and signature smiles, scattering them like props from a poorly staged movie. The roast exposes the emptiness of his image and highlights his missteps. Though he claims to be a visionary, the reality is far different. He acts like an actor trapped in the role of governor, hoping no one notices that the script he's following simply doesn't work.
George Marcus was one of Gavin Newsom's biggest donors in the recent recall elections. So this week, after surviving the recall, tragically, Gavin Newsom rewarded those real estate developers with the biggest, quote, housing bill ever. Newsom just signed a series of bills, most notably SB 9 and SB 10, that will abolish the suburbs.
And the cruelest truth is this: when the laughter fades, what's left is reality. Gavin Newsom's leadership is built on a facade. His track record serves as a warning, and his ambitions are little more than a staged performance executed to perfection by Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly. Newsom's habit of dismissing critics only heightens the roast's impact. He seems to believe that polished sound bites and rehearsed delivery can withstand scrutiny, yet Kelly and Carlson revealed that a politician who thrives on empty gestures is hollow at the core. It's like knocking on an ornate door only to find nothing behind it. Every word he utters echoes with emptiness. Kelly seizes on his insatiable need for praise, pointing out that Newsom routinely congratulates himself for problems he hasn't solved, crises that have worsened, and projects doomed before they begin. His press briefings, where he plays both the expert and the case study, feel less like governance updates and more like self-help sessions for an audience he's trying to impress.
Industry Association, which represents, quote, interests of builders and developers of housing and commercial projects. There are about to be quite a few new commercial projects in California's suburbs. As the New York Times put it, quote, SB 9 essentially ends single-family zoning. Property owners now have the state's approval to convert any single-family home in the state of California into a 4-unit apartment complex.
Tucker continues by ridiculing Newsom's constant self-praise for accomplishments that barely exist. He jokes that under Newsom's leadership, success is always promised tomorrow, never delivered today. Then comes the financial picture. California now carries some of the highest taxes in the nation, yet the state struggles to maintain affordable housing, safe roads, or reliable electricity. Kelly highlights the absurdity of asking residents to shoulder more burdens each year while receiving less in return. Tucker drives the point further, noting that Newsom treats budgets as props for speeches rather than genuine plans for the people. He manages public funds with the same recklessness, arrogance, and theatricality as a poor gambler tossing chips across a table. The hypocrisy extends beyond state lines. Nationally, Newsom preaches environmental responsibility, yet California faces rolling blackouts, water shortages, and dependence on imported energy. Kelly seizes on this contradiction, mocking him as a climate advocate who can't even keep the lights on at home. Tucker adds a final jab, comparing him to someone buying an electric car for a photo op, only to realize there's no working charger in sight.
What Gavin Newsom is doing right now with this podcast, because I've said I'm against conservatives going on his podcast because I think it's helping him train for 2028.
Yeah,
I don't think we should help him.
I agree completely. I didn't think that. Obviously I know Gavin Newsom. I text with him occasionally. I am from the state of California. I'm from originally San Francisco. And I have relatives who know him. And I've been friends with Gavin Newsom for a long time. I know his ex-wife. I have been bothering him for years. Like, you should come on my show. And he was kind of open to it. And then he whips around and he's like, no, you should come on mine. I was like, oh, I would love to, because I would love to debate him about what he's done to mine.
The roast also takes aim at Newsom's record on crime. Violence, theft, and disorder have surged in California's major cities, turning some neighborhoods into chaotic experiments, while Newsom prefers touring the country giving lectures on reform and compassion. Kelly cuts through the illusion, reminding everyone that true leadership is about protecting the public, not just delivering inspiring speeches. In a sharp piece of irony, Tucker quips that California might as well replace its welcome signs with warnings under Newsom's watch. Enter at your own risk. By this point, the roast has dismantled his identity entirely, exposing his incompetence, hypocrisy, ambition, and arrogance. Newsom doesn't just fail to govern, Kelly argues. He fails to even recognize the failures around him. Too insulated and focused on his own image, he misses how California has become a cautionary tale for the nation. Tucker ridicules him further for continuing to act as if the country applauds his leadership, when in reality, most Americans see him as a political warning meme. In the end, Gavin Newsom, who once positioned himself as the shining future, emerges from the roast exactly as he is, a polished but hollow politician more suited to comedy than governance, with sleek hair and grandiose speeches masking empty substance.